Here's another question from the monthly questions thread. This one's from Kelly. Hi Kieren, as you know, I'm working on a mythological retelling. As I continue to make progress, I find myself thinking about what happens when I finish my first draft. Do I put it away for a while and then do my own editing, hoping I don't discover that I need a major rewrite? If I don't need a rewrite, then what? At what point do professional editors come in, and how important is it to get an editor that specialises in my genre? And in my case, should I find someone who knows the myth pretty well? I know I'm many months from needing to worry about this, but I'm curious about the process. Thanks for the help. First of all, I'm a little under the weather, so excuse my voice. To me, I sound a bit like Barry White this morning, but I'll plod on. Fun question. So here's my advice. Do you put the manuscript away for a while, and do you self-edit it? Yes, and yes. Let me tackle the editing bit first, and then I'll come on to talk about the putting it away bit. I really recommend any writer to edit their own work once they've completed a first draft. The first and simplest reason for that is that it just helps you get better as a writer. The process of writing and the process of editing are really similar, but they're not quite the same. Plus, you're not the same writer that you were when you wrote your draft or when you started your draft. Maybe by a little bit, but maybe by a lot. Editing your manuscript yourself gives you a chance to pick up on things that you can immediately take on board so that you don't make the same mistake in future writing. And trust me, there is nothing like correcting the same error 14 times in a manuscript to really make you aware of it. The second reason I'd recommend editing yourself is value for money. Even if you're intending to send your draft to a professional editor, if you send a very first draft, I mean, beyond the impression that the editor might have of your work, if you care about that, they'll have to take more time to correct stuff that you could have easily caught yourself first. As an editor, I don't mind that particularly. If I can help in any way, then that's good. But some editors have different rates depending on how much work your manuscript might need. They'll do a sample and then tell you, what it's going to cost for the rest of it, whereas mine is based purely on word count. So in some cases, doing a sweep of spelling and grammar or whatever else might save you a bit of money, potentially. It could also open up your eyes to the possibility that you might not even need an editor particularly. If you can get your manuscript to a position where you feel reasonably happy with it, for whatever you intend to do, then it's better to know that before you've paid someone else to do it than later when you're having buyer's remorse. So I'd say definitely edit it yourself first. The question, of course, then is when do you edit it? And that links into your other suggestion. Do you put it away for a while? Yeah, definitely. At least I do anyway. Some writers may disagree, but the reason I put the manuscript away is because when you just finish a draft, when you put the final word on your manuscript, you're so close to the story. You're still right in there, right in writing mode. And if you go back to the start straight away, you stay in writing mode. And you keep building on things, you keep adding and taking away and making changes. And because no manuscript is ever perfect, there's a real possibility of falling into this trap where that process just never ends. If you put the final line on your manuscript and then you put it away for a bit, at least a month, maybe a couple, or as long as you can, realistically, when you come back to it, some of your familiarity will have faded a bit, so you'll be able to read your story more like a reader would without remembering all of the little intricate details. And that's how I think you can more successfully edit it, I think, with the knowledge of what's important to the story in terms of the big picture and the hindsight of where everything's going, but without the intricacies of the line-by-line phrasing, because otherwise you'll just see what you want to see and not what's actually there. So to summarise, I definitely recommend self-editing. It teaches you to write better, and I definitely recommend taking a break once you finish a book. By that point, you deserve a break too, so that's not to be underestimated. You also asked how important it is with work based on mythology to get an editor who's familiar with that. I'd say it's as important as you want to make it. There are some things that any editor will be able to help you with, any good editor obviously. That's why I do 5,000 word extracts of novels first, so that writers can get a sense of what they need to work on, but if I'm not completely au fait with their subject matter, then they have the option to find someone who's a better fit for them. I think it's probably important for someone to understand the myth, just for context maybe, but it's not my story, so it's hard to say exactly. Once you've read through your manuscript, you may feel just fine about the story itself, which is the part that I would imagine links most strongly to your mythology, meaning that any editor within reason will be able to help you get the most out of it. But if you think there's room for the story itself to grow a little bit and expand, an editor who knows the subject matter and knows the conventions and all of that important stuff will arguably be better for that. Anyway, that's enough waffle for sure. Hopefully that's in some way helpful. Thanks so much for your question, Kelly, and for your support here on Patreon.